Hi, Popcorn Recap here. This is part 2 of the show Flight Attendant. If you haven't seen the first part, it's in the description below. But you can actually watch this without seeing the first part. Cassandra Bowden is a flight attendant who woke up next to a dead guy named Alex Sokolov in Bangkok, Thailand. She was super drunk when it happened, but she doesn't think she killed him. Her primary suspect is Miranda, a woman who was there with her and Alex the night it had happened. Miranda is actually following Cassie right now with a blade, ready to attack. A group of guys end up blocking Miranda. Without even realizing it, Cassie gets away. During her flight to Rome, Cassie takes a swig of alcohol. Then, she realizes that her photo is plastered on a newspaper that says a woman was seen running away from the scene of the crime. When Cassie arrives in Rome, she decides to go to see her regular hookup to see if he's available. Unfortunately, her colleague Megan, Eggplant, blocks her. She's super drunk, which is odd because Cassie is usually the drunk one. Cassie realizes that hooking up with her Italian lover isn't something she can do anymore. She's starting to fall hard for someone. Unbeknownst to the Italian lover, Cassie is falling for Alex, the dead guy who constantly shows up in Cassie's hallucinations. Back in her hotel, Cassie clasps onto the Crimes and Punishment book that Alex had read. She remembers the conversations she had with Alex. She realizes that the two of them had a genuine connection. When Cassie finally arrives back in her New York apartment, her door is open. She finds that things have been misplaced. What she doesn't know is Miranda had gone into her apartment last episode. She decides to go to her friend Annie's place so that she isn't alone. She accidentally walks in on Annie's hacker boyfriend Max. Annie is a big shot lawyer who works for the mafia. Cassie is shocked that Annie even has a boyfriend since Annie is usually all about work. Cassie then complains about her apartment being rummaged through. She thinks the likely culprit is Miranda. Then, Annie calls her FBI friend. She finds out that the Bangkok police has found fingerprint evidence on a bottle, which is likely the murder weapon. Annie thinks the best thing to do right now is find more information on Miranda. Cassie gets hallucinations where she talks to the dead Alex. She realizes that Miranda and Alex were dating, so maybe she can get some information from Alex's mom. She decides to attend Alex's funeral with her friend / co-worker Shane. Suddenly, Buckley, a guy she met the previous week, calls her. The two flirt, but Cassie decides to dodge him for now. While all of this is happening, Megan has her own side storyline of stealing information from her husband's computer. His company deals with facial recognition, and some shady men are really interested in it. Megan is worried that she'll get in trouble for this, but the Korean man assures her that they will protect Megan and her husband. Megan decides to go home and use a flash drive to download all the necessary information on her husband's computer. Back at Annie's apartment, she asks her hacker boyfriend to look into Alex and his family's company Unisphere. Subsequently, Shane and Cassie have finally arrived at Alex's funeral. There is a peculiar man following them from behind, and FBI agents are closely watching her since she's a primary suspect in Alex's case. Shane is upset for being dragged into this. During a funeral speech, Cassie's phone goes off twice. It's Annie, who tells Cassie that Alex Sokolov's family is laundering money for the mafia, some of which happen to be Annie's clients. Annie warns her that these are very violent people, and she needs to leave the funeral. Cassie doesn't listen to her warning though. Meanwhile, Megan is doing the flash drive exchange at a furniture store. Back to the funeral. Cassie has a flashback of her father's funeral. Alex appears in her memory, and this causes Cassie to start drinking heavily. She finds her younger self stealing a beer in the fridge. Her brother takes it away from her. Cassie then starts to see the peculiar man everywhere at the funeral. She gets another flashback that shows how her alcoholism started after her father passed away. Cassie finally meets Alex's mom, Janet. She asks about Alex's girlfriend, Miranda Croft. However, Janet says the two never dated. She even denies knowing a Miranda. Cassie is suspicious, so she follows Janet to listen in on her phone call. Janet is heard talking about shredding some files this morning. She even mentions Miranda Croft. Back to Annie. She is super worried about Cassie since she hasn't heard back from her yet. She decides to save her friend by calling her mafia boss to give Cassie a free pass. The man following Cassie earlier goes to the FBI agents to let them know what Cassie has been up to. Janet goes to them and asks the agents to leave. Meanwhile, Cassie goes snooping in the house to look for the shredded files. She finds the files, but she throws it out the window. She bumps into Alex's dad, so she tries to tell him she and Alex were just sleeping buddies. Cassie notices the gun in one of the gentleman's pocket. Then Janet enters the room, and Janet is really suspicious now. Janet gets word from Annie and the mafia boss that Cassie is free to go. Cassie leaves panicking. She grabs the shredded files, and Shane is upset with her for dragging him along. While on the train home, Cassie finds Miranda on that same train. Cassie decides to flick her shoe at Miranda and she starts running away. Cassie runs into security and tells her about Miranda, but Miranda gets away. Then, Cassie goes to Annie's apartment to hand over the shredded files over to Max. Annie wonders if Cassie is experiencing PTSD since she did witness Alex dead on her bed. Cassie realizes that her hallucinations with Alex would be considered psychotic. Interrupted by a call, Cassia's brother Davey lets her know that they'll meet up at the aquarium tomorrow at 12:30. Even Buckley sends her another text asking to meet up sometime. The entire night, Cassie and Max work overtime to put the shredded pieces together. One piece of paper in particular shows that a flight in Maine arrives but turns right around after refueling. This seems suspicious to Cassie, so she talks to Alex about it. Cassie realizes she needs to get on this plane as a flight attendant to figure out what exactly is going on. Alex doesn't want her to get on the plane, especially since Cassie has to spend time with her family. While at the mall, Megan sees the man she's committing corporate espionage with. The man leaves her a bag of cash, so she puts it in her purse. Then, Cassie calls Nate to see if she can get on the flight crew for the suspicious flight at 3 p.m. He allows this. Meanwhile, Annie gets reprimanded by her boss for asking for a favor from the mafia. She tells Annie that Annie now owes these people a favor and it won't be pleasant. Finally, Cassie meets up with her nieces, her brother and his husband. The kids want a souvenir, but Davey is trying to teach them a lesson about not buying things you don't need. While watching her nieces, Megan and Cassie talk. Megan opens the bag and finds a note saying, "A dragon rises up from a small stream." Megan gets a feeling of adrenaline from all of this. Suddenly, Cassie realizes that her nieces are nowhere to be found. She starts to have a panic attack. Eventually, she finds them. Before Cassie leaves, she gives the girls the souvenir that her brother asked her not to buy. Cassie and Davey admit they both had fun today and can't wait to see each other for dinner later tonight. When Cassie arrives at the suspicious flight, Nate tells Cassie that all the passengers are here and accounted for on the manifest. Cassie is confused because there's actually no one on the plane. Nate tells her he doesn't ask any questions and she shouldn't either. While on the plane, Cassie talks to Alex again. The two dance. She realizes she's falling in love with Alex even though he's dead. Subsequently, Miranda goes back to her place and a man named Victor spooks her. Victor is upset with how she messed up Bangkok. Miranda and Victor think Cassie has some secret identity and she's working for someone. They don't realize that Cassie is just a simple flight attendant. Victor wonders if Cassie has her personal property, but Miranda isn't sure. Victor fires Miranda and says he'll hire someone new to fix Miranda's mess. Once the plane has landed, men take containers from the plane. Cassie is very curious about the containers, so she decides to go snooping. She memorizes the serial number on the container. Nate scares her from behind. Nate tries to make a move on her, but Cassie pushes him aside. Back in the plane, she finds out the serial number corresponds to a rocket launcher. At night, Megan's husband is upset with his wife because his laptop is really slow. Megan decides to blame her son for watching OnlyFans on the laptop. At dinner, Davey is the only one who shows up. Davey is upset with his sister for buying the gift for his daughters. He begins to get upset with Cassie for showing up drunk at the aquarium and smelling like mouthwash. He then gets angry that Cassie has already had 2 glasses of vodka. Outside the restaurant, the two begin arguing about their drunk dad. How their dad would tell Davey that Cassie was the son he never had. And Cassie would laugh with her dad about this. Davey is pissed because Cassie seems to never remember anything. He kisses his sister goodbye and says he loves her but doesn't want to deal with her alcohol antics. Then, Cassie remembers the time when her drunk dad pushed Davey during an egg race. Her dad caused a commotion by bumping into a random girl as well. Cassie begins to get upset with herself since she was remembering things wrong. She put her father on this pedestal, but he was actually a terrible man. Cassie calls everyone she knows, but no one picks up. She decides to call Buckley to drown her sorrows in his thighs. Meanwhile, Miranda visits Sabrina at her apartment. She wonders what Sabrina told Cassie. After some wild wrestling with Buckley, Cassie steals some alcohol in Buckley's apartment. Cassie realizes she should talk to Sabrina about all the information she's gotten. Surely Sabrina has more information. At Sabrina's apartment, Cassie can hear Sabrina struggling in her apartment, so she calls the cops. Suddenly, Sabrina falls from the window and splats right in front of Cassie. Let me know if you'd like us to cover more episodes. Who killed Alex? And who killed Sabrina?
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.